Hi everyone. Uh, so we are going to talk about its full stack development for you. Uh, so first of all, uh, I'll go through the topics which we will talk about. Uh, first, First of all, we'll be speaking about my journey as a developer, how I started, what all spheres I have worked on when it comes to software or web development. Then I'll explain a little about how this presentation might help you or who this is for. Uh, Thirdly, I'll go a little in depth about the all three aspects, front end, back end, and full stack development, in the sense of what all responsibilities and skill set demands these have, who should be more inclined towards what, and what is the future of all these. Then we'll go through the pros and cons of each as compared to other. Obviously, they're not something to be compared between, but to understand, to get the idea what you want to specialize in, or which pathway you want to grow in. And at the end, we'll have a dedicated Q&A in which I'll answer your questions or any doubts which you might have. Please feel free to write your questions about any points or slides if you have. I will answer them during this part. Let's begin. So a little bit about me. I have around 5.5 years of work experience in web and mobile development. I got inclined towards coding in college. My major was manufacturing, but I got this inclination from the first year, and then I took some electives in computer science to build the foundation. I was a part of Android mobile computing group. So this group basically made applications which was used in college, for example, library application, and I did some courses like object-oriented programming, data structures, and at the end of my engineering, I did an internship in a software company called JDS Softwares, where I got the idea how a software development process works, and what technologies are being used. And after this internship, I got a job into a startup called Navig Info Solutions, where I worked as a full stack developer. This is where my journey started. I learned the basics of web development, end to end, like how the web work, how requests are handled, how SQL queries are written. I got a lot of experience with HTML, CSS, JavaScript on the front end side, and Ruby on Rails and Postgres on the back end side, along with a little bit of Python. This gave me a lot of exposure and a good learning path. Then I really like JavaScript, so I got interested in the front end side of it. My next move was to housing.com, which gave me a detailed product focused exposure on UI, UX, design, and development, and hands-on experience of that time advanced frameworks like Backbone.js and React.js. Now, after having more exposure on the front end, I joined DirectEye Media.net as their front end lead. Here I worked on front end architecture and system design, getting more into deep with the front end, keeping in mind the product point of view as well as the backend point of contact. Got a lot of exposure about product design and development from scratch. Right from the inception to delivery to production, I was responsible for it, and I was responsible for the deployment and continuous delivery of the web app. Having advanced experience about front end, I thought to move to another level, which was to Dream 11, where there's a high scale and really high performant web application was needed. So I joined Dream 11 as their engineering manager. Worked more towards the system design, got more exposure on how high scale systems work, how the caching mechanism, cache busting, high performance architecture is done. So this has been my journey so far, and how this slide can help you. So this webinar is going to help you in these ways. For example, if you're a fresher or you're going to be a fresher, and the decision you have to make is right around the corner. So what should you do? What should you start with? Should you start with front end? Should you start with back end? Should you start with full stack? If you are a fresher, if you're new to web development and you want to start piece by piece and want to know how front end works, how back end works, how full stack works, this might help you. If you have a little bit of experience, like if you have 1 year or 2 years of experience in any of the verticals, this might give you a little more perspective about where you can go regarding your career. Either you can create an expertise in that particular field in which you are in, or you can go full stack and learn, and how this learning can help you. So basically, the idea is to give you some objective metrics so that you can compare between them objectively in those three directions, depending on your area of interests and aspirations. So let's begin. So in short, basically, this will This is your before. You are like really confused, and after this webinar, you might be in somewhere in this state. That's my focus. Let's see how I do. So let's start with front end. So what front end is all about? So when I speak about front end, I'm going to talk about more about web and mobile web application development, and not the native mobile front end development, which is like iOS and Android. I'm not going to talk much about it. uh, so yeah. So what is front-end development in terms of technologies, challenge, and responsibilities? So front-end developers are responsible for user-facing experience of a website or a web app. When you go to some website or an application on your browser, the UI that shows up that you interact with is what front-end is all about. So when you start with the front end, the first thing which comes to tech-wise, which comes to our mind is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So yeah, so these three are the main entities to learn. But many different things are there to learn on the top of it. For example, the frameworks. So there are a lot of frameworks which solve a lot of your problems. For example, routing. In some cases, there are some hooks which basically provide you the life cycle and on the top of which you are going to develop your application. So there are some frameworks, for example, React, Angular, Vue.js. These are some frameworks which allow the user interface to be more dynamic, performant, and interactive, and obviously easy to develop. And since we know that the UI has become much more advanced than it used to be years ago. So moving on, apart from frameworks, we have to have the state and data management. So when it comes to UI these days, it's very data intensive. For example, it needs a lot of data. So how to manage it? So we use different state management technologies to handle it. For example, Redux, Flux, GraphQL. So GraphQL is a little used on the front end as well as on the back end side. So I'm not going into in deep about it. But yeah, just to give you an idea. So this state management can get pretty confusing. So and that's why the front end development is getting tougher these days as we move towards specific problem solving from server side to client side. For example, routing, caching. So these were existing in the server side previously, some years back, but now they are moving to client side, and for a lot of percentages actually moved to the front end side, and so we are handling all this in here. Then comes package manager, task manager, module loader. What is it? So for example, you need CSS to be compressed. Maybe your JavaScript code need to be concatenated, even cleaned up after you are done and you're going to production. So these things, package manager, task manager, module loaders, they help you do that. So they give you out of the box functions which you just can use, and they will just work out of the box. So they help you build the file. They help you break your application. When it comes to the browser, it breaks your application to small pieces so that the page load time is really really low. And yeah, so that's how these things help. So we need to know about it when we are talking about front end development. Next is web APIs. So these APIs are layer on the top of the framework, which help us interact more with the browser, exposing things like DOM. We also have to learn about HTTP, how it works, various status code like 200, 403, 500, and how to handle them. Because if we know about it, and if we don't know about it, actually, we don't know what the response is from the backend, and we cannot handle it properly. So we need to know about what are the various status code and how it works. Then obviously comes into the category of data fetching, how to fetch data from the server, what keys it needs, and when. What are the various protocols in which we can stay connected to the database, to the data, that is the API. Then comes knowing about things like site performance, debugging, tools around them. It's really important when we are talking about front-end development, because this is the key, how you're going to make your website really, really nice and performant and give them a lot of features. So there are a lot of things which we have to do here. For example, Chrome DevTools is must needed for the debugging. So yeah, the tools are much needed. Then comes testing, analytics, monitoring, CI/CD. So how this works is basically once your application is ready to be tested or to go to user, you do an automated testing, unit testing, to know that the application is working in a same way. So apart from that, we also add analytics to get an idea of different prospect for example, user flow, user behavior, patterns, how user is behaving, so that you can actually change it later on if you want. Monitoring also helps to know that whether your app is running running smoothly or not, or and keeping the eye on it. Apart from that, we also need a CI/CD pipeline, which is basically to deployment, to do the deployment. So you need to know how and you need to make a very smooth CI/CD pipeline so that you can continuously deliver your new features and applications. Uh, so apart from that, obviously you need to know about user experience, user interface, and design aspect of the application. So this is something which you don't get to know in the backend, because UX design and UI are the key for front end developer. So moving on, front end, who is it for? So if you like JavaScript, yes, this is for you. uh, if you like designing and love coding, you can basically combine your both skills into front end development and be an amazing UI UX developer and designer. So this is a very niche skill which is really in demand right now, because designer and developer, that's like a really good skill to have. So if you like designing and you are interested into coding, you should just go about it, and good things might be waiting. So when it comes to a product, if you're more inclined towards the user behavior and how user works and love solving problems which involves users, I think front end is for you. You can try that, because it's very directly related to the product. And if eventually down the line you want to get into product, right now if you like coding, you can definitely take that path as well. Because if you like product, you can work for some time in front end, then probably become a product engineer or not, or then directly move to product management. So that's how it works. Okay, what is the future of the front end? uh, so I have jotted down a little path about how you can go about it. So if you see, uh, you have you have one line here, which is one career path. You can get more experienced in the front end. If you like tech part of it, you can become a team leader. Then you can go and go into architecture. You can become an architect. Then you can become a principal architect, and then you can go on to either become a CTO or maybe a CEO. If you like management, also apart from the tech, you can leverage a little bit on your architecture skills, but you can learn management, and then you can become an engineering manager after that. Although there are scenarios where you have to code parallelly as well, intensively, and become an engineering manager, but that's an exception. So there are a few. So this is one path. This is one path, and then you can also become a product engineer. You can become a product manager, and then again go to that path. Obviously, you can do a startup at any point of time, which you feel like. This is obviously dependent on the person, how his mindset is, and how he wants to do it. Additionally and parallelly, you can also, if you gain some knowledge, if you like teaching, if you like sharing your knowledge to the people, you can actually go through evangelism and advocacy. You can write blogs, you can make tutorial videos. So this is also a very pop thing which people are doing right now, and it's actually very interesting if you like sharing your information with the world. So yeah, so these are the various prospects which you can do. So next is backend. uh, what is backend about? So backend is basically server-side code, runs on the server rather than client-side, serves data to the front end, which and whenever way is requested. So you can imagine like a house which is made on a foundation. So the foundation will be backend, and the interior decoration, the paint, and everything, that will be like front end. Although it's kind of a very vague example, but you get the idea. So yeah, so the first thing which we need to learn in backend is basically data management and foundation. Data management, how to fetch data from which database to fetch, how to serve to front end. So that's how it is all about. Then obviously you have to learn one server-side language at least. The various server-side languages are Node, JS, Node, JavaScript, Java, PHP, and Ruby, and a lot more. In many cases, you will be using a framework and a structure on backend as well. Although some companies also make their own frameworks. Some popular frameworks are Express, which is based on Node, Django, which is based on Python, Laravel based on PHP, and Spring based on Java, etc. There are a lot of frameworks as well. Next is database. So you have to be comfortable with databases when, well, if you are a backend developer. It could be a relational database like MySQL, Postgres. It could be it could be a NoSQL like MongoDB, and many other kinds. Uh, there are some cases where you might have to use ORM, which is object relational mapping. Instead of writing raw queries in SQL, you can use the abstraction for the same. But I won't suggest it because you need to know how SQL works. You need to know how writing queries in SQL works, because that's how a backend developer will. If you're going to write your own framework someday, you need to know that. So moving on, the next thing which we are going to which we need to know is basically the request response lifecycle. You need to know how the HTTP status code works, as I said, in the front end, but you need to know it more in the back end, because you are sending the status code to the front end. So that's very important to know when you are sending some data to the front end, that how and what the status code means and how it works. So obviously you need to know that. Then comes DevOps, environment management, containerization. So what it is basically, for example, you have created an API. So how to serve it, how to connect it with the database, and make an isolation layer in which you can put all these. So this comes into containerization, virtualization, so that you can that you have to do along with the DevOps. So when it comes to backend, DevOps is more intensive, because you need to know more DevOps as compared to front end, because front end you can create one pipeline, but for backend you need to connect various microservices if you're doing that. And so this is very important. Then comes security. So obviously, like, backend security is like really big thing. So make sure your data is well protected. It can't be accessed if it is not supposed to be accessed. You have to take care of security against things like cross-site scripting, SQL injections. These are very important because then comes testing, analytics, monitoring. So obviously, like, as in front end it was needed, we need that in backend as well. You need to test the APIs. You need to add analytics so that you can, if you have to debug sometime, if you get a request, you want to know where it came from, and some hacker is trying to hack you. So again, it comes into security and all that. You need analytics for that. Apart from that, monitoring is needed for the servers, because you need to know the status of your servers, because whenever the traffic gains its peak, so you have to know that it is doing that, and you should set alerts and all those kind of things, because it's very important to monitor your servers once you are doing it. And then comes system optimization and configuration. So whenever you are creating a system, you need to optimize it for example, what you're going to use. If your use case is more about MySQL, or it's about NoSQL, you need to know that, and that's how it works. So obviously there are a lot of things in which as you grow in the senior level, you are going to work more on that as compared to on the junior level. For example, when you get to grow in backend, you will be working on system optimization and configuration, DevOps, environment management, containerization more if you are a senior than a junior. So that's how it works. Moving on, who is it for? So if you love playing with servers, want to get into designing and managing server systems, if you're like Neo of Matrix, I'll say backend is the place for you. If you want to work with really high skill problems like peak handling, fault tolerance, and traffic management, backend is the place for you. Sorry, I think I said front end, but sorry, I meant backend in the previous point. If you love solving physical problems with data distribution, that how to distribute your data, where to keep your data, in what database to use for that. So you need to know. And if you like to work on those problems, I think backend is the place for you. You want to dig deep into databases, the use cases, when to use what, how to connect them, which caching layer to put on where, and what all things to connect with. So I think backend again will be a place you'll like. You love learning new languages, obviously. So in front end there's a restriction, although I'm not committing on it that there's a restriction as such, but mainly front end is more about JavaScript, TypeScript, and those things. So there's not much learning as far as languages is considered. But when it comes to backend, if you love learning languages, backend is the place for you, because a lot of languages have a lot of framework, and you can use all of them in your microservices. So so not necessarily, but if you love learning new languages, you will like backend. Okay, what is the future of backend? So the first and the second path remain the same. You start in a company, you become a team leader, you go into architecture, you become an architect or principal architect, or you also add your management skills and get to become the VP or something like that. You can also become systems engineer, system architect, and director. So as I stated in the previous slide, that there's a lot of DevOps involved. There's a lot of system management involved. So yeah, so systems engineer is something which also you can like doing. So yeah, so that's also the path, but it merges to the same. You can also do a startup at any point of time. And I've seen, so this is my personal experience, but I've seen more of the backend people moving to research as compared to the front end. But yeah, this is a case. For example, if you're working in some in-memory database, or if you're working with some database and you really like the machine system which is being used inside it, you can get more deep into it, and you can get into research with it. So yeah, so this is what backend future is, in my opinion, about. Let's move to full stack. What is it about? So we read about the front end technologies, we read about the back end technologies. So you need to know both. Now, how can you do that? Now, the problem is that it is too much to learn in the front end, too much to learn in the back end. So what happens is, whenever you join a company as a full stack, you are typically in one bias. For example, some company will say that you will be more focused toward front end, but you'll be a full stack developer. So you'll also be writing APIs, but you'll be working on front end, and vice versa. Some company might tell you that, hey, you can work on the full stack, but you might have to write JS code as well, front end code as well. So yeah, so that's how you leverage some of the points in each of them, and then you work on the others, and later on you can actually just learn those things which you left. And that's how it works. Obviously, when you learn about front end, and you learn about back end, you need to wire them together. So that's also something which you learn. Then you build stuff on your own. Basically, you can write anything from scratch. You can just start. You can write front end, you can write back end. You're not dependent on anyone, right? So you can do that, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, so full stack is like really fast. If you like working really fast, you are really fast moving, you want to just break things, I think you like full stack, because there's no dependency. For example, if I'm a front end guy, and I need some API, I'll have to use mock APIs until the API is ready, and I will not see the application working. So how to do that? How to make it work? So you have to build fast. So if you're a full stack, you can do front end, you can do back end, and then you can combine it, and hey, you are ready to go. You don't have to depend on anyone. And obviously, deployment as well, so you can deploy it on your own. So there's no dependency. So every good thing comes on some effort. So very high effort, as too much to learn and apply in full stack, because you have to learn front end, you have to learn back end, you have to learn all the aspects of it. You have to a lot of times there'll be situations where you'll have to hit and try and see that what works for you, because there are a lot of technologies you are like just meshed up into. So you have to see. So it takes a lot of high effort. And yeah, so this is what full stack is all about. Who is it for? If you love solving tech problems despite of its nature, if you don't care if it's front end, if it's back end, you love the problem, you just got into it, you solved it. So hey, full stack is for you, I think. If you are disruptive in nature, I'll say full stack is for you. If you love learning new technologies and applying them quickly, because you just heard about GraphQL, you just got into it, you just read the docs, you just got inside it, and you just applied it to your server. You added another layer and you applied GraphQL, and since you write the server, since you write the front end, you just added GraphQL in the middle layer. So yeah, you learned new technology, you applied them. So this is a very good benefit of full stack development. If you're soon planning to do or join a startup and want to be on the tech side of it, then I think full stack is a good thing for you, because mainly startups, they want people who can do anything. For example, like anything, as in you can do front end, they can do back end. They are not dependent on each other. So yeah, so if you want to do a startup or join a startup, I think you can be a one-man army. That's what startups want. Yeah, if you have a fear of missing out in technologies, for example, you went to office and some of your friend who is in backend, he said that you're a front-end developer, and some of your friends said that, hey, did you hear about this VoltDB? But you'll be like, no, I don't. but you have to you want to learn. So if you're a full stack, this won't be a problem, because if someone tells you what VolDB is, you will know, because you know databases. So you'll just read about the documentation, you'll just do a POC, and you're good to go. So yeah, that's how full stack works. The future of full stack. So it's a little bit different as compared to the previous ones. You typically become an individual contributor in a company, then you become an architect if you are into architecture side, and become principal architect, and similar way as previously. Just the only thing is that you don't specialize in anyone, you just become an individual contributor. You can also become a technical product manager, because you know all the domain information about web development. You know backend, you know front end, you know DevOps, so you know how the estimates are going to be, how things are going to work, and then you can go ahead with it. So basically, this is how it can be. You can be a technical product manager as well. Since you're in full stack, there is another possibility open. Typically, when you are looking into freelancing, the clients are usually looking for full stack developers, because they don't want different front end, different back end, and then make them work together. Rather than, they'll take a full stack person, and they'll ask them that, hey, this is the problem I want to solve, this is the product I want to get done. So if you want to freelance and you want to do tech consulting, it's a good thing. After that, you can also join a company and become senior there, or you can actually do a consulting startup, which is a thing a lot of people are doing right now. You can also do a product startup if you're a full stack, and you can write the initial application on your own, because there's no dependency on anyone. So yeah, so this is how, obviously, evangelism and tech advocacy is there as previous ones. So yeah, now let's come to the pros and cons of front end and back end. So basically, the pros of front end will be cons of back end in a way. So for example, you get to do a lot of user interface development in front end. You don't get to do that in the back end. On the contrary, you get to do server side business logic. For example, there's an authentication service you want to make, you will make the whole authentication service for the back end. If there's a payment service, you make that, but you can't do that in front end. In front end, you basically create a client system design based on JS. In backend, you don't. In backend, rather, you get to have the database access and interaction, and you get to work on it. In the front end side, you do client and debugging. In the backend, you do containerization, virtualization, and system DevOps more. You do a little bit DevOps on front end also, but it's not that intensive as it's in backend, as I said earlier. In front end, you get to do a lot of UX strategies. That was the reason I said that you can move to product, because you know a lot of user UX strategies, how user work, what user wants. In backend, you get to create things like schedulers, automated mail systems, and these kind of stuff, chat systems, and all these kind of stuff. This kind of stuff you cannot make on the front end. On front end, you also get to make backend communication, channel management. So basically, if you want to set up pops up, for example, the backend is pushing data, something is updated, and the front end receives it without even asking for it. So that's something which is basically created on the front end side and also on the back end side. But again, both are different. Let's come to the pros and cons of full stack. So in full stack, I'll talk about what you'll do and what you won't get to do. So, and what you can do on your own, basically. And so what you'll do is basically you will do user interface development and server-side business logic both. You won't work on advanced libraries and framework, both on front end and back end, because since you are handling both of the things in the front end, in the full stack, you won't be able to do that. You won't be able to specialize in any one of these, and you won't be able to write your own frameworks or your own libraries much. You have to put an extra effort on it. You'll basically write JS-based client system design and database access and interaction on the front end, on the full stack side, but you won't work on build tools. For example, if you have to start a new project of React from scratch, you won't be writing the architecture code for React. Typically, you would be using some boilerplate. For example, React Create app, people just use it. So usually you'll use templates, you'll use boilerplates and CLIs for the same, instead of writing everything on your own or in-house libraries, unless your company is so. Then you'll work on client-side caching, debugging, basic DevOps. That's something which is there. You will not work on, if you are really interested into very highly intensive user interface, including animations, parallax, then full stack is not for you, because that's a specialization which is in front end. In the same way, if you want to work on really intensive backend related problems, for example, chat systems, multiple chat systems, complex server side business logic, these kind of things, I think full stack is not for you, because full stack you will get to learn UX strategies, not very advanced, but UX strategies as well, and basic processes like message queue, push notifications, etc. Uh, Now there's one more thing which is in full stack. So since you're working on front end and back end both, you will have the liberty, and you will get to know how to optimize the interactions between front end and back end, and you will have the liberty to do that. So that's something which typically you won't do in the front end or the back end side, because there's no guy who is in the connection of it when it comes to code point of view. So yeah, so this is the pros and cons of full stack. So basically this you can decide how things work. So thank you. I hope I gave a little more perspective about front end, back end, and full stack, and things are not haywire for you right now. uh, I will take questions now, and I hope you can just write the questions in the chat, and so I'll go through each question one by one. And so I can see your question, when it will start. Started at 6. Okay, just a second, guys. Okay, Aditya has asked from where to start, what basic skills are required for a full stack developer. So as I told, very if I'm going to talk about a very basic skill, you can just so the slide which I showed. So I'll go back to the slide, and yeah, so you need to know, if you want to start as a server side, as a full stack developer, you in my opinion, you should start with JavaScript, because JavaScript anyway you have to learn. You can learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript for the front end, that will do, and a small framework, like very easy framework like React, you can use that. And you can also use JavaScript as the server side language, because Express is based on Node.js, which is on JavaScript. So basically, you can learn both of them. You don't have to put in extra effort. If you learn some other server-side language, it's well and good. You can learn Java, Ruby, Python, anything. But in my opinion, if you're just starting with it, just start with JavaScript. You can go through. You can use a framework like React and Express on the backend. And for databases, you can use any databases like MongoDB. If you want to use NoSQL, if you want to use relational database, you can use MySQL for that, or Postgres. So yeah, so that's the basic thing which you want to know when you are starting as a full stack developer. Uh, how tooling is it? Tushar Pandey has asked, how tooling is it for someone to become a full stack developer from scratch? Any insight into expertise, extent, or competition in the market? Uh, okay. How tooling is it? Okay. I actually could not get the question, Tushar, very clearly. The last question which you asked, any insights from into expertise, extent, or competition in the market, in sense of what? Like, could you please write in sense of what you are asking this? You can become what I got from your question, I'll answer that. You can become a full stack developer from scratch. You basically start with that. If you are, for example, when I started my job, my first company, I was a full stack developer. I was writing front end as well as back end, and I suggest that only because I learned a lot of things. Then I got to decide how I want to go about it, how I want to move forward with it. So yeah, so this is something which you can start with. You can start with full stack developer. It's just that you have to really know what you want to do, and you want to put in some extra time and effort for that. So you can do that. It's not a problem. So I'll answer your second question. Any insights into expertise accent or competition in the market? Well, competition obviously is there, a lot of it when it comes to developer market in India. It's just that you start with a full stack, and then you get into expertise. That's how people do and build their career in, like, as far as I have seen, that they start with full stack, they get interested in one of them, and then they continue with it. So yeah, so I think that is something which you can do. Okay, any other questions? I cannot see the questions. Just a second. Give me a second, guys. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I got into it. Uh, okay. Can I get a PDF of this information? Sure. I can ask, and I can give a link to the PPT, and you might get it. Vasudev. From where to start? What basics? Okay, I answered it. What languages must learn for full stack developer? So, Pankaj, as I said, you can start with JavaScript, because JavaScript you will have to learn for the front end part of it, so you can directly use it in the back end also. If you want to start with basic, like you don't want to learn two languages, you can start with it. That will be good for it. So yeah, so that language is there. Also HTML CSS is there, which you need to learn. How to start full stack with Java? So Java, basically Java, when you're using Java, you can use Spring framework for backend development, and you can use JS, HTML, and CSS for the front end. That's how you can do that. So if you're writing very basic front end code, you won't need a very high intensive JavaScript knowledge as well. You can, like that's just if you are writing just simple pages. If you're writing if you're writing like applications which are heavy, you need to know good JavaScript for that. To learn web development, is we have to start with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or can easily start with new front end technologies? Srinivas, what new front end technologies are you talking about? Because if you're talking about React, React is based on on JavaScript. React uses CSS and kind of something like that, which is basically JSS, which is CSS converted into JavaScript. It's written like CSS, it gets converted into JavaScript, something like that. It's actually written into JavaScript only. But yeah, so yeah, if you can write and tell me what new front end technology are you talking about, I can give you more information. Pankaj, how to get full stack developer internship? Okay, so Eckovation has a course which you can follow. So guys, there is a course from Eckovation about full stack development. They cover all the aspects of it. You can find the link in the description. At the end, there is also an option for an internship, so you can check that out. I hope I answered your question, Pankaj. How much time it will take to learn front end and back end, Srinivas? Okay, so it takes time to learn both of them. Like it's not something which you just Tony Stark on it. So you have to give time. Like for example, you have to give good amount of time to, if you want to become an expert in front end, it will take you 2 to 3 years to become like good in front end. And that's very that's different. That depends on person to person, how much time it will take. But yeah, typically you can learn front end and back end. If you can just choose one on one, or you can learn full stack and then grow your expertise into it. Are you ready to refer if I showcase you my projects and all? Utkarsh, sure, sure. Connect with me. I will try to refer you. uh, See the software to build full stack project. Vaishnavi, there's no software to build full stack project. Again, as I said, you need to learn one framework from the front end, one framework for the back end, and then you need to combine them both. Front end, again, I'll suggest Express. I'll suggest React, and on the back end I suggest Express. If I like to work with together front end, what I do? Naga Manikumar. You have to you start with full stack development. That's what you can do. Pankaj Sharma, any standard algorithms required for full stack? So basically you need to know a little bit of obviously you need to know algorithms and data structures. That's the base of computer science, but not it's not necessary that you are very dig deep into it. You can actually just work around with basic, for example, trees, hashes, linked list, arrays. That might work. Uh, Tushar, installing means hard work. Okay, I knew that. I knew that. I just could not get your question. Insights, as in there too much competition. Can someone with basic skill get a decent career, or we need to really ace the skills? Okay, so you have to look. You cannot get to the top directly. You have to start with you have to start somewhere, right? So you can start with full stack and become an awesome full stack developer. You can, if you're talking about decent career, you will have a very good career if you start like that as well. If you start at full stack, you go into front end or back end, you make specialization there, you will ace the skills, and definitely you can get a more than decent career. That I can assure you of. That's something which is there. You have to just be good at it, and it takes time and hard work, right? So yeah. uh, okay. uh, there are a lot of repeated questions, so I'll not answer them. Rohit Bal, sir, tell me the best resource to learn all these things. Okay, you can. So as I said, there is a course. I have added the link in the description. Uh, you can just check that out, and they'll. So basically, that course will teach you all of the aspects, and it will cover all of the things. So it's you'll get to know about it. Sir, how much time it will take to become full stack developer, JavaScript full stack developer from scratch? As I said, it will take. It depends on you. It can. So I won't. I can't give a timeline on it, but it depends on you. So how much you know currently, how much you will do. So yeah. So that's something which is which cannot be answered as such. Uh, Utkarsh Singh, can we connect on LinkedIn? Okay, sure. You can connect with my LinkedIn. Vaishnavi, what kind of software? Okay. Pankaj Sharma, best software, as I already told you. Sarthak Sureka. So, where should we start the learning process from to become a full stack developer? Again, there's a link on the description. Do full stack developer use machine learning nowadays? It actually depends, but typically not. They don't. Like usually they don't, but it depends on the use case. For example, there might be a company which is in a very early stage, uh, uh, and the person knows things about machine learning. He has put in efforts and he's a full stack already, so yeah, he can work on it, but not typically. You don't need to worry about that. If you want to become a full stack, you don't need to worry about machine learning. That's kind of a different stream. There might be some overlaps, but yeah. What if I learned Vue.js? Is this helpful? Yes, of course, Prashant. Vue.js is of course helpful. It is one of the hot frameworks for the front end right now as well. So if you can use Vue.js, it's well and good. If you want to use Angular, it's well and good. Yeah. So yes, I suggest using Vue.js as well. So it's a good framework. Pankaj, do freelancers earn a lot through full stack development? Okay. Okay. Yes, they can earn. Depends. Like again, this depends on your connection and networking, because networking is very necessary. So yeah, so definitely it it, it depends again. Sarthak, sir, you are telling that we can find links in the description, but there is no description here. They will be added. It will be just added. There's a description in the chat as well. Sorry, there's a description in chat as well, and it will be added to the description of the video once it ends, so you can find that. So don't worry about it. Just bookmark the video or anything. You can just find it there. That's not a problem. Jagveer, sir, how much time it will take to become? I again told you approximately. I know a little bit of HTML and CSS and a good learner too. Well, then very quickly you can learn that. It's not a problem. You just need to learn JavaScript, and just learn JavaScript, and you are good to go. There's a link. I've shared it again. There's a link in the description. Pankaj, can hackathon winning fetch a full stack? I full stack developer job. Okay. Depends. I mean, yes, it you can, depending. Like, there are a lot of companies who actually host hackathons to for the same reason, that if you win their hackathons, if you get into top 3 or top 5, they basically do a last round and they take you in, or maybe they directly take an interview, they directly hire you. So depends. And also depends on the hackathon, the kind of hackathon. But obviously, hackathon adds a lot of value to your CV. So I'll suggest doing hackathons. I've done a lot of hackathons in my life, and so yeah, so like it helps and it's a good experience. So I'll suggest that. So guys, I think this is it. I'm out of time, and if any question you have, you can connect. You can actually just write in the comment of the video. I will reply to them later uh, on the video, or I'll basically you can connect me on LinkedIn as well, so I can answer that. It's not a problem. Obviously, don't if you want to do the course, which is there. If you want to learn, there's a course link which will be provided in the description. It is available in the chat box as well. So yeah, okay. Thank you.